And we've got a flywheel and a crankshaft. It'd be really nice if we could get the crankshaft running on that part of the cylinder. I don't think that's going to happen. I can't really think of a way to make that happen, so we might have to live with it running on the thread there. And of course our screw needs to be a lot shorter than that, we decided. So let's get the drill press out of the way for a bit. So there's our flywheel and crankshaft. If we put this through here, we haven't really got enough left. To mess around and put a crank on here. So we're going to need a longer screw. And probably the best way is to go out and buy one. However, it's pouring with rain. Bunnings is probably open and they might have something. I'm not going to make that trip. This one here is about 25mm. We really need something that's about 30. Closest I've got is this one, which is 45. I reckon if we took 15mm off there and we found an M6 button die and put this in the vise and run a bit more thread on it, or probably the easy way is find a stack of ordinary washers and put on here to space this out a bit. We don't want all that overhang, or else I'd just put washers all the way through. But I think we're going to end up with a tight spot if we've got this hanging way out here. So best thing probably to do is to find a stack of washers and put on there. Bit of a look around and I found some. A couple more won't hurt. Let's run this lock nut up. So that's what we've got, is a little flywheel with a lock nut on there. I don't know how out of balance it is, probably quite a bit, because the holes in the middle are oversized. We put a washer on that end, on that side, to take a bit of the load that way, and a washer on that side to sort of to cover the other side. What I've done, and I did this quickly and I thought I had it on camera, but I never. The memory card filled up and I ended up stopping to download and see where I was up to and reformat the card and start again. But I've just filed these two nuts down to about half, which is where they want to be. And if we put this one on, right, that's the flywheel started, that's the crankshaft nearly finished. We'll probably Loctite that one on and put this washer on here for the crank. and tighten this up as well. And that should give us our crank. So that's starting to look pretty good. This needs to be chopped off here, a bit under flush probably, so I'm going to put a Sharpie mark on that. And take all this apart, put this in the vise and chop that much off the end of it and file it up so the nuts go back on. It's about where it wants to be, I reckon, chopped off. I'm going to cut that off with a hacksaw and file it all up nice. And we might put all this together with a bit of Loctite so it doesn't come undone and so it's got no end shake much. And call this bit done. I don't think we need to take this apart for anything more. That was a pretty quick, easy job. If we put the nut on first, we'll be able to get him off again and get it back on again, I hope. Might just make sure that all this is as concentric as we can get it. Do the Loctite up nice and tight. Put this washer on. This together. And this washer on. We're going to find a bottle of Loctite, which could be anywhere here. But it was right where we could find it. Time I upgraded this a bit. It's pretty gross. Just a little bit in there. It's not going to need a lot. This is actually nearly empty, so probably I need to invest in some more Loctite at some point. So there's a few little jobs we can do while this is setting. That's what it's going to look like there. I haven't Loctited this final nut on. I'm going to wait till the bottom one sets up and then we'll drill this. We've got a bolt that's not 4mm, I think it's 1/8 and it's stainless steel, but we might live with that because that's all I've got with a nut that's going to be low enough profile to fit on there. And I've lost that too. So that's what I'm going to use for that. Found a spring in the spring assortment box for here. Should be about the right length, I think. We've got a nylock nut for this, so one of the jobs we can do is chop this off here at the end of the thread and probably won't Loctite that in there yet, but we can find a nylock nut for it and we can put it all together. So that's another job that we can do. So we can screw that in there like that. Put this through here and put that on there. Find a 4mm lock nut to put on it. And that one's way too big, it must be a 5. We'll try this one. Probably we could Loctite this in here, but we won't yet because we still need to drill this hole in here for the cylinder port. So that's on. I've been thinking about this, and I don't think that I need to make this adjustable length. What I'm going to do is chop a piece off and drill a hole in the end of it, and then I'm going to make a recess in the back to clear this nut, so that when that goes through, it'll run backwards and forwards over the top of the nut, and we've got the full thickness to go through the bolt on the bottom. And that's probably the quickest and easiest and neatest way to make that, I think. So the secret will be to put this in here. We don't want it right up against the end. We want it so that it comes down about in line with that nut, so it does. So it's got maximum length there. Does that make sense? And then we want it to come down here without coming out or losing too much. So it's got quite a bit of stroke, and that should be good. So if we chop this off here, and clean the end of it up, and we'll have a look at where we need to drill it. So we've got a 3.2mm drill there, which for people who use older systems and methods of measuring is 1/8. What I've done, this vise here has got a groove in here so that this will be nice and square this way, providing that the table's square, and I'm pretty confident it still is. What I've done is just got a little square and marked a line down the middle from that mark, and just had a look and see if it's in the centre, and turned it to appropriately if it's not, and tighten the vise up. So we've got this little conrod with the centre pop mark in the middle, in the end, that hopefully if I drill it on that centre pop mark, it'll go through the middle. And there's the hole in it. A little file and give that a clean up. If we have a look at our engine here and slip this up inside the cylinder, I reckon that it's going to be a fairly easy job just to mark this through here with a scriber. That Loctite's not quite set, so we'll just make sure that still turns nice. And we'll centre punch that. Slip this off here. So quick file front and back to take the burr off. Do that up nice and tight. And we've got our crank pin. Only real job to do is to file this off nice and flat at 90 degrees to the hole, just the thickness of that nut, and back far enough so that if we have a look, that clears there. So that's about all I've got to do. I might probably use this little vise here on the bench and we'll do it. With this, slow and steady wins the race. We want this nice and parallel all the way down. We're getting there. Not quite enough yet, but you can see the idea there now. Wants maybe a couple of mil. We must be getting pretty close. And there we go. I'm pretty happy with that. I reckon that's pretty good. So we've still got one job. That's to find the centre point where this is the furthest over here and mark that centre hole. So that's the next job. So there we go. That's running pretty sweet actually. Bit of oil in it and it'll have compression, but we need to mark this hole, and if we find the centre across there, so that's the furthest over there, and to be honest I'm probably just going to put a hole in there with a Sharpie or a mark in there with a Sharpie. We're going to drill that there. So there we go. That was pretty straightforward really. It's not a bad looking little engine. It probably wants some Loctite on it or it's all going to come undone. But I don't know if we can resist giving it a run. So we might just do that when we've cleaned some stuff up. Well, there you go guys and girls, there's a picture of the engine running, there's a video of the engine running. This is running on about 15 psi, which is probably better than I expected, to be honest. It still needs a little bit of adjustment. I'm going to mess with this for probably a couple of days before I make another video with some information about fine-tuning it, because getting it to run this well took a couple of hours. Like, it took nearly as long to get this thing running as it did to finish the engine today. So I'm going to do another video with tips on getting this little engine running, but it does run and it runs reasonably sweetly. It's really not too shabby. It's running on about 15 psi there. There were quite a few things that I did. One thing that I did, if you're going to build this engine, a teaser for the next video, make a spanner to fit this middle nut in here so you can get your end float and your crankshaft adjustment right. That was a really tricky thing, and once I made that, I got it running in about another half hour. What else am I going to say? Not a lot. Thanks for watching. Hope you made it through to this point. Like, comment, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. Be kind to each other. And look out for the third video, and I'm going to make a good video on how I actually got this thing running and looking like it's reasonably trouble free. So that's all for me tonight.